The moment you choose silence is the moment you choose power. It might not feel that way at first. It might feel like weakness, like retreat, like you're surrendering the last word, the last bit of control. But that's the illusion. That's what they want you to believe. Because as long as you're talking, reacting, explaining yourself, you're feeding the dynamic that lets them win. You're keeping their ego alive. But the second you fall quiet, something shifts. Not just in the room, but in the energy. The silence you give isn't emptiness. It's pressure. It's pressure. It's weight. It's everything unsaid roaring louder than anything you ever could say. People like him, the ones who manipulate, who belittle, who feed off control, they rely on your voice, not to hear you, but to dominate it. They twist your words, they bait you, they pull emotions out of you, not because they care, but because it fuels them. And when you stop, when you just stop speaking, they're lost, confused, angry, vulnerable, because now they're alone with their own noise. No more distractions. No more back and forth. Just them, and the truth they've been avoiding. You're not staying silent because you're scared. You're not quiet because you don't have anything to say. You're silent because you've realized that not everyone deserves access to your voice. Some people only deserve your absence. Your silence becomes your boundary, a powerful one. And boundaries don't require explanation. They don't need to be justified or negotiated. They're decisions. Quiet, firm, and final. He starts to crumble, not because you said something clever or cutting, not because you exposed him with evidence or arguments. He crumbles because you stopped feeding his need for control. He crumbles because for the first time he's not performing with an audience. He's left with the echoes of his own actions, and they're not easy to sit with. That silence, but forward into the life that no longer includes the noise he brought. Quietly, powerfully, fully. When you finally stop speaking, stop justifying, stop pleading to be seen or heard, something powerful begins to happen. He's forced to face himself. No distractions, no one to blame, just him and the truth. You see, your voice used to act like a shield for him. Every time you tried to explain yourself, every time you reacted, every time you cried or screamed or begged, he used that as cover. He used it as noise to drown out the reality of what he was doing. But now, with your silence, there's nowhere left to hide. The performance is over, the audience has walked out, and all he's left with is a mirror he's spent years avoiding. You've got to understand how much your energy has carried him. People like him feed off your reactions. That's how they stay in control. That's how they dodge accountability. They provoke you, then point at your reaction like you're the problem. But now, there's no reaction to point at. Just silence, just stillness. And that terrifies him. Because when you're no longer around to absorb the blame, to take the guilt, to be the emotional dumping ground, he's got no choice but to sit with it all himself. The lies, the manipulation, the gaslighting. It all circles back to him now, and it echoes louder in the silence you've left behind. That's when the cracks begin to show. That's when his image, his control, his ego starts to crumble. It's not your job to fix that. It's not your responsibility to help him face himself. You tried. You gave your voice, your effort, your heart. And still, he chose to break it. Now it's about letting him deal with what he created. Letting him feel what it's like to be alone with the version of himself he's been trying to deny. That silence you gave him, that's accountability in its rawest form. No shouting, no confrontation, just space. And in that space, the truth suffocates him. You see, when someone's power depends on how much they can control you, the second you stop engaging, that power dies, slowly, painfully, and they feel it. At first, they may act like they don't care. They may try to flip the narrative, make you look like the one who walked away for no reason. But deep down, he knows. He knows what your silence means. He knows it's not indifference, it's clarity. It's the result of seeing things for what they are and refusing to play a game that only ever left you drained. There's something haunting about facing your own reflection without distraction, and right now, that's what he's doing. Every time you stayed, tried to fix, tried to love harder, he avoided that reflection. He buried it under excuses and blame. But now it's staring back at him day and night, and it's not flattering. It's not comfortable. And it sure as hell isn't something he can manipulate. Don't underestimate how powerful that is. Don't think for a second that your silence goes unnoticed. It shakes him, because it says everything he feared, that you're done, that you've evolved, that you're no longer emotionally tied to the version of him you once hoped would change. And when a person like that loses control over you, truly loses it, they fall apart, because you were never just another person to them. You were a source, a supply, someone they could rely on to keep the cycle spinning. And now, the cycle is broken. That's the moment where your silence turns into something sacred. It becomes the space where your peace returns, where your energy regenerates, where you remember who you are without his noise in your head. And while he's unraveling, you're rebuilding, quietly, powerfully, on your own terms. Let him face his reflection. Let him confront the emptiness he created. It's not revenge, it's not cruelty. It's what happens when you finally choose yourself over chaos. And maybe one day, he'll come to understand that. Maybe not. Either way, it's no longer your burden. Your only job now is to keep walking forward, keep rising, keep growing in that quiet, unstoppable way that doesn't need an audience. Because your silence is no longer about him. It's about you taking your power back and never handing it over again. Let him sit in the silence you left. Let him finally see what you saw long ago. Then, when the time is right, rise. When the silence settles and he begins to crumble, your next move isn't to look back, it's to look within. This is where everything changes. The silence wasn't just an ending, it was a beginning, a reset, a shift. The moment you stopped chasing validation from him, the moment you stopped giving him pieces of yourself just to feel seen, you opened the door to something much more powerful. Yourself. And now, it's time to take all that energy you used to spend on trying to fix him, understand him, or be enough for him, and redirect it back to the one person who actually deserves it. You've already made the hardest decision, to stop engaging in a cycle that only hurt you. That takes courage most people never find. But now comes the most important part. Rebuilding. Not with noise, not with announcements, but with quiet, intentional action. This is your time to turn inward, to remember the version of you that existed before him, and then rise into someone even stronger. For so long, your energy was wrapped around someone who took without giving. You poured love, patience, and forgiveness into a person who never knew what to do with it. And while you were busy trying to hold that relationship together, you were slowly drifting away from yourself. Your confidence, your dreams, your voice, all of it got quieter while his needs took center stage. But now that he's not the focus anymore, you have space again. And that space, that's where you start to grow. At first, it might feel strange. You're used to fixing, explaining, worrying about how he'll react, wondering what he'll say next. But now, there's just stillness. And in that stillness, you get to ask yourself the questions that matter. What do I need? What makes me feel alive? Who am I when I'm not surviving someone else's chaos? This shift in energy isn't small, it's everything. Because when you start pouring into yourself the way you once poured into him, you realize how much you were starving for your own love. You realize how long you went ignoring your intuition just to keep the peace. You realize how you silenced your truth just to avoid another fight. And now you're done doing that. You start making new choices. You stop seeking closure from someone who was never open. You stop begging for respect from someone who never knew how to give it. You stop sacrificing your peace just to keep someone who wasn't willing to meet you halfway. And in doing so, you stop being the version of you that settled and start becoming the version of you that demands more, quietly but undeniably. This doesn't mean you won't feel the pain. Healing isn't a straight line. There will be moments when doubt creeps in, when the old pattern tempts you to go back, when you miss the idea of him more than the reality. But every time that happens, remind yourself, he had access to the most giving, loyal, loving parts of you, and he chose to exploit them. That's not on you. That's on him. And the fact that you're choosing to shift your energy now, that's your power. That's your healing. This is where the transformation begins. Not in some dramatic moment, but in the quiet daily choices you make to honor yourself. You start speaking to yourself with kindness. You take care of your body, your mind, your boundaries. You explore what brings you joy again, without permission, without guilt. And little by little, the version of you that was silenced begins to rise. And while he's left confused, unraveling, trying to understand how he lost the control he thought he'd always have, you're busy growing. Quietly, beautifully, unapologetically. You're no longer trying to prove anything to anyone. You're no longer giving your energy to someone who didn't value it. You're not even looking in his direction anymore, because your future is calling. And it doesn't include the weight of the past. There's nothing louder than a woman who stops asking for permission to be herself. And that's exactly who you're becoming. Not in a burst of rage. Let your silence be the foundation. Let your shift in energy be your new direction. And when he realizes what he lost, don't look back. That part of your life is over. And the version of you he thought he knew, she's not coming back. Keep moving forward, quietly, powerfully, unstoppably. You don't need to announce your comeback. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, least of all him. The most powerful thing you can do now is rise, without noise, without performance, without warning. Because the truth is, real growth doesn't need to be seen to be real. It happens in the quiet moments, behind closed doors when no one's watching. That's where your power is being rebuilt. That's where your next chapter begins. He expected you to fall apart. He expected you to stay broken, to stay silent out of weakness. He thought your silence was the end of your voice, but he misunderstood. Your silence wasn't surrender. It was preparation. You were pulling your energy back. You were gathering your strength. You were stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't beg, doesn't chase, and doesn't settle. And now, while he's sitting in confusion, slowly unraveling, trying to understand where his grip on you went, you're moving, softly, steadily, forward. You don't need to text him to show you've moved on. You don't need to post cryptic captions or prove to the world that you're unbothered. Your peace will do the talking. Your glow will speak louder than any words ever could. Every step you take toward healing is a step away from the version of you that thought love had to hurt, that thought silence was weakness, that thought being chosen meant shrinking. Not anymore. Now you rise differently. You move differently. You protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. And instead of performing for attention, you're living for alignment. You're not chasing love anymore. You're becoming love for yourself, for your own life. And that shift, it's unstoppable. He might not see it at first. People like him rarely do. They're used to reaction, chaos, noise. They're used to being able to read you, predict you, pull strings just to keep you wrapped around their ego. But when you stop playing, when you stop reacting, when you stop showing up for the drama, he loses his sense of control. He's no longer the center of your story. And the silence he hears from you now, it's not just absence, it's evolution. The truth is, the best revenge isn't found in confrontation or dramatic exits. It's found in your peace, in your glow, in the way you no longer flinch when his name comes up, in the way you smile without bitterness, in the way you thrive in a life where he no longer exists. That's the kind of power that rattles people, not because it's loud, but because it's real, unforced, rooted. So what do you do next? You rise without apology, you get intentional. You start setting boundaries that don't bend. You invest in your mind, your body, your future. You surround yourself with people who see you, not use you. And you learn to trust your own voice again. The one that got lost in the noise, the one he tried to quiet. This is your season of building in silence. Not because you have something to hide, but because you have something to protect. Your peace, your growth, your healing. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every move needs an audience. Some of the greatest transformations happen when no one's looking. And that's what makes them sacred. You'll know you've healed when you no longer need him to crumble, to feel whole. When his downfall doesn't concern you. When you don't need an apology to close the chapter, because you've already written the ending yourself. You'll know you've healed when your silence isn't about him anymore. It's about choosing a life that feels good, even if no one claps for it. And when you walk into that new version of yourself, confident, clear, grounded, you won't need to explain it. You'll simply live it. And everyone, including him, will feel it. That's the power of rising without noise. It commands attention without asking for it. It changes the game without making a sound. So no, you don't need to announce your healing. You don't need to warn anyone that you're coming back stronger. Just keep moving, keep building, keep choosing yourself every single day. Because the moment you do, you've already won. Let your silence grow roots. Let your peace speak volumes. And when you're ready, rise quietly, fully, and on your own terms.